Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The sky over Washington, D.C. was heavy that night, laden with rain and dark clouds that reflected the city's tense atmosphere. In the deserted streets, only the neon lights of street lamps and the flashing lights of patrol cars broke the darkness. Emily Thompson, a black woman 7 months pregnant, walked alone to her car after an intense political meeting. Her husband, Senator Marcus Thompson, had begged her not to go out that evening, but she had insisted, "I have to show my presence, Marcus. I have to let people see me and our unborn child." As she approached her vehicle, a siren wailed behind her. Before she could even react, a white police officer, his face contorted with a mixture of anger and contempt, grabbed her roughly. "You're under arrest," he shouted. Emily instinctively recoiled, but the officer made no attempt to calm her. In a brutal movement, he threw her to the ground. Pain exploded in her stomach, and she immediately knew her baby was in danger. Her hands clutched her belly, fear contorting her face. Passers-by who tried to approach were roughly pushed back. The officer, unaware of her identity, continued to hit and humiliate her. What the police officer didn't know was that this woman was no ordinary citizen. Emily Thompson was the wife of Senator Marcus Thompson, an influential voice for justice and equality. And that night, an unbearable injustice had crossed a line that the entire city could no longer ignore. The blood on the pavement reflected the city lights like a grim warning. Sometimes power and racism tragically intersect, and those who think they can act with impunity will sooner or later find themselves facing a storm they did not anticipate. The sirens had faded into the night, but the chaos they left behind remained. Emily Thompson still lay on the sidewalk, rain mingling with her blood, soaking her light-colored dress. Each breath brought a silent scream as the pain in her stomach continued to intensify. Around her, a few passers-by, frozen in horror, tried to comprehend what had just happened. The officer, James Whitaker, stood a few feet away, his gaze hard, refusing to show the slightest compassion. He had struck Emily under the pretext that she resisted his control, unaware that she was pregnant and the wife of Senator Thompson. His pride and racism mingled in a dangerous mixture that was about to ignite a storm. As Emily struggled to get up, a passerby took out his phone and began filming the scene. His face pale, he whispered, "Call an ambulance, quick." A few minutes later, an ambulance arrived, carrying Emily away amidst a flood of screams and confusion. Marcus Thompson, alerted by his team, rushed to the scene. When he saw his wife, bloodied and pale, he felt anger and fear mingle in a searing mixture. He shouted the officer's name, but the man had already slipped away, confident that his uniform would protect him from any consequences. At the hospital, doctors struggled to stabilize Emily. The severity of her injuries was evident: several fractured ribs, internal trauma, and a direct threat to her baby's life. Marcus, unable to contain his rage, picked up his phone and began calling his most influential contacts. That night, he didn't just want to save his wife and child, he wanted the truth to come out, the injustice to be exposed. The media began reporting the story early that morning. Images from the amateur video quickly circulated on social media: a pregnant black woman, humiliated and injured by a police officer. The entire city was shocked. Accusations of racism and abuse of power against the police soon followed. Marcus knew this was only the beginning. That night, Emily had been the victim of a brutal and racist act, but from that moment on, the Thompson family would transform their pain into a relentless fight for justice. The next morning, Washington, D.C., was in turmoil. News channels and social media were abuzz with the assault on Emily Thompson. The video footage, showing the brutality of Officer James Whitaker, had circulated nationwide. The outcry was immediate. Citizens, civil rights activists, and politicians denounced the injustice and demanded exemplary punishment. Marcus Thompson, still in shock but resolute, went to the Senate building. In his office, he called an emergency meeting with his advisors and communications team. "We can't let this go," he said, his voice firm. "Emily and our child deserve justice, and the country needs to see that the law doesn't protect injustice, even when uniforms are involved. He knew that directly attacking the police would be complicated. James Whittaker had union protections and a network of influence within the department. Marcus therefore had to build a solid strategy, combining political, media, and legal pressure. Meanwhile, Emily, still in the hospital, received an outpouring of support from the public. Hundreds of flowers and messages arrived at the hospital. Every call, every word of support strengthened her resolve. She knew that the shadow of racism that had struck her that night could no longer go unpunished. The initial interrogations were orchestrated. Whittaker, under pressure, tried to downplay his actions. "She attacked me first. I was only defending myself," he repeated mechanically. But the video evidence, witness statements, and medical reports spoke for themselves. Marcus knew he had to fight on all fronts, media, political, and legal. For Marcus, this case wasn't just personal. It was becoming a national symbol against racial injustice and police brutality. He contacted his allies in the Senate to propose an independent commission of inquiry, ready to expose any abuse of power. Behind the scenes, he also began preparing a legal counterattack that would send shivers down the spines of those who thought they could act with impunity. As tensions rose, a simple tweet from Emily from her hospital bed sparked a wave of global outrage. A pregnant black woman was injured by a police officer. It could be me. It could be anyone. Justice now. The short but powerful words galvanized public opinion. The following night, Marcus stayed awake, watching the news and political reactions. He knew they were about to enter a battle that would go beyond Emily's pain and a husband's anger. It was a fight for justice to prevail, and for no one, regardless of their position, to believe themselves above the law. The disciplinary hearing against James Whittaker was held behind closed doors, but the public eye weighed heavily on the police department. Marcus Thompson left nothing to chance. He had hired the best civil and media lawyers, determined to transform this personal matter into a public demonstration of justice. Despite her pain and recovery, Emily decided to testify. Her courage impressed everyone she met. In the courtroom, dressed in a simple yet impeccable gown, she looked Whittaker straight in the eye. "You thought I was nothing," she said in a clear, firm voice. "But I am a citizen, I am pregnant, and I am the voice of all those who are defenseless." Whittaker, caught off guard, tried to maintain a facade of indifference, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his nervousness. The evidence was overwhelming: videos of the scene, witness statements, and the medical report detailing Emily's injuries and the risks to her baby. Meanwhile, Marcus used his political influence to ensure the scandal wasn't swept under the rug. He contacted independent journalists, issued statements, and held press conferences where he denounced institutional racism. The national media quickly mobilized, and the public demanded Whittaker be suspended and prosecuted. But the story took a darker turn when Whittaker began receiving threats and panicking. His family was subjected to intense media scrutiny, and he realized his reckless act had triggered a chain of uncontrollable events. Marcus, however, had no intention of seeking revenge through fear or violence. His battle was legal, moral, and public. One evening, while Marcus was visiting Emily in the hospital, she took his hand. "We have to see this through, Marcus. For our baby, for me, and for everyone who has no voice." Marcus nodded. He knew this fight wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face any obstacle to see justice done. Outside, protests against police brutality were intensifying. Citizens chanted Emily's name and demanded immediate reforms. This movement, born of injustice, was gaining momentum, and Washington sensed that a historic transformation was underway. As Whittaker faced the reality of his actions and public opinion solidified behind Emily, Marcus knew that the time had come for the final act, the final confrontation, where power, racism, and injustice would be exposed for what they truly were. The day of the verdict finally arrived. The courtroom was packed, not only with journalists and lawyers, but also with citizens who had come to support Emily Thompson. The atmosphere was heavy, tense, every gaze fixed on the man responsible for this tragedy, James Whittaker. The prosecutor forcefully presented all the damning evidence: the videos of the scene, the witness statements, the medical report detailing Emily's injuries and the risks to her baby. Whitaker, sitting in the dock, could no longer deny the obvious. His attempts to downplay the facts or justify himself fell on deaf ears. Emily was called to testify one last time. She stood with dignity, the pain of her injuries still visible but tempered by her determination. "What this man did isn't just about me," she said firmly, her voice echoing throughout the room. "He represents an injustice that too many people suffer in silence. Today, I speak for all those who have no voice." The judge, impressed by the clarity and force of the testimony, quickly delivered his verdict. James Whitaker was guilty of serious assault, abuse of power, and endangering the lives of others. He was immediately suspended, and the court ordered a thorough criminal investigation. The shock on Whitaker's face spoke volumes. His arrogance and sense of impunity had just been shattered. But Emily and Marcus's victory wasn't just a court ruling. The scandal triggered internal reforms within the police department, the creation of new oversight rules, and stricter penalties for racist and abusive behavior. What began as a personal tragedy transformed into a genuine movement for justice and equality. A few weeks later, Emily gave birth to a healthy daughter. Marcus, holding their baby in his arms, looked at Emily with admiration and gratitude. "We went through hell," he murmured, "but we also showed that justice can triumph, even against hatred and fear." Emily's story became a symbol, a reminder that moral strength, determination, and courage can transform pain into victory, and that even in the face of racism and injustice, the truth always comes out in the end. In the golden morning light, the Thompson family finally smiles, united and stronger than ever, ready to face the future with confidence and pride.